A very warm welcome to you all. My name is Linda, and I know Kevin of old because I used to work for Reed many, many moons ago, but since have been working for myself as a coach and a facilitator, particularly working with women and thinking about the kinds of things that women want to think about as they navigate their careers and the systems and the environments that they find themselves in. And today, I have put together a bit of a session for us to do some deep thinking. And I realise it's Wednesday lunchtime and that you may have had a busy morning and that you may have plenty of things going on this afternoon. You also might be trying to eat a sandwich. So it's for us to kind of drop immediately into thinking about values, maybe a bit of a stretch, but I'm going to invite us just to pause over the next 50 minutes or so, just to have a think about those things that really matter to us. And so the thing that I will say just as we get going in doing that, we're going to invite you to go into some breakout rooms. I'm going to ask some questions that you can make notes on yourself quietly, but I will also ask some questions out to the group. And it'd be great if some of you felt that you were able to share those answers. But as you have heard, we are recording it. And so that means that in sharing anything, we just want to make sure that if you're sharing, you're comfortable with what you are sharing for the recording. Okay, so I will just say that. Okay, and turn you to the first quote. So we've already heard a few people saying that they like it. If you don't know what port you are sailing to, no wind is favourable. And I've started with this quote because I suspect that most of us have a very clear understanding of why goal setting is important. You probably set goals, you will have had objectives, you may go through performance cycles in your roles, you may have had career conversations where you're invited to think about kind of what you want to be when you grow up. Right? But the next quote that I'm going to ask Kevin to show is one that connects to kind of why we do things. We can often have goals that we set for ourselves, but in setting them, they aren't necessarily always things that feel very fulfilling. Maybe some of you have work that you are doing that isn't terribly motivating. And one of the reasons for that may be that the stuff that is kind of deeper inside you, the values and the beliefs, the things that you consider to be important, aren't always being expressed in. And so through this session, what I want us to do is to think about those things that matter, think about those things that drive us, because they can often help with making those decisions about what our goals are, or what our career destiny is, or what it is that we are looking for in our next moves. It can often make a lot of the things that we procrastinate and struggle to make decisions over easier, right, and simpler. So I want to offer the opportunity for a bit of reflection on that if we can. Okay, so with that, can we go on to the slide, the next slide, Kevin, so that we can have a look at this model that I want us to work with today. And I guess for most of you, you are familiar with ideas of kind of authenticity and bringing yourself to work, or alignment, congruence, those kinds of words that we use when we are describing what is on the outside matching what is on the inside. Yeah. And this is a really simple way of looking at how all of these things connect together. When our environment enables us to behave in ways that we feel comfortable, we can show the skills and abilities that we have, or we can develop new ones. The things that we are doing match with what we think is important. Those are our beliefs. The things that we know are core to us, that drive us, which are our values, that tell us something about who we are and our identity. Okay. So this is kind of what alignment or congruence or authenticity is really about. Am I in a place and am I doing things that represent what matters to me and who I see I am? Okay. That makes sense? Anything anybody wants to share or say in response to that? Okay. So we can go into our first exercise then. Kevin, can you move us along to the next one? Okay, right. I don't know how small this is on your screens, but you are going to need to peer in and have a piece of paper and a pen. All right. On this slide, you have a series of different values. And what I'm going to invite you to do first up today is look at those deeper level things. I'm going to make the assumption that there are between 5 and 8 of these that you could look at and say, yep, that matters to me. And so what I'd like you to do is pick your favourite and take your piece of paper and pen and write them down. Write down up to 5, no more than 8 of those words that you think, yeah, that matters. You don't necessarily have to put huge amounts of thought into it. For those of you who are perhaps a little more reflective, it is okay if you just take a first cut. We're not going to hold you to them. There might be more than 8 that resonate with you, but just pick the first chunk that you spot. And what I'm going to invite you to do then is just to have a look at those that you've chosen and ask yourself what it is that you notice as you look at them. Maybe it's a thought, maybe it's a feeling. Anything that you notice. And once you've done that, I'm going to invite you to put them in rank order. Which ones matter most? Which are at the top? Can you put them in order? If it's tricky, or you can find yourself having a little bit of internal tension about it, this is good. Right? This is good. It gives us the opportunity to build our awareness of the things that matter to us and why they matter and how they matter in comparison to other things. So if you're struggling, it's okay. Especially given that the next thing I'm going to ask you to do might involve you struggling again. Because what I'm going to ask you to do is to take a few of them away. If I had to ask you to filter this down and make it a top 4, top 3, top 4, which are the ones that you would remove from the list? Have a go at that and see what you notice. I'm making you work hard at this lunchtime. I can see a few of your faces going, oh, yeah. Okay. My next question, looking at the ones you've got, so maybe you've got 2, you've got 3 or 4, whatever it is you've got. I'm going to ask you to score them out of 10, 10 being high. How often or how much do you get to express this value in what you are currently doing in your work? So if you've chosen creativity, that's something that matters to you. Is it 10? Do you get to express creativity at a 10 out of 10 on a day-to-day in your work? Or is it a 2 out of 10? Give each of the ones you've got a number. How well do I get to express this on a day-to-day basis? And then I'm just going to invite you to pause and look at the answers you've given and think about, what does that mean? What does it mean? Whatever scores you've given. And notice any feelings, any thoughts, any reactions that you might be having. I'm going to say, I hope that this hasn't meant that any of you have gone, well, what this means is I need to resign from my job immediately. Although Kevin might be quite grateful if that's the outcome, because that might give him some more things to do and finding you somewhere else to go. But I'm just going to pause and see if there is anybody who wants to just share anything about what it was like to do that, knowing that you don't have to share any of the detail of what it is that you have written. Who's willing to share something? If not, I can always pick on Kevin. Naginda.
I'll brave it first.
Stuff.
I think it's one of those things that you know about, but never give time to think, what is utmost, what is the most important. You just kind of get on with it. And I think what you, I'll put it politely, what you've made us do in the last 5 or 7 minutes is saying, stop, think, what is important, and write it down, rather than on a normal day, you're just into the depths of the work, do it, get on with it. That's just how I felt when doing the exercise.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you for that. And there's a great kind of, what does it mean for me to stop and slow down and think about that? Yeah, invite you to think about that through the course of today. Ndidi, is that right? Have I said your name right?
Yeah, absolutely. You did good. When I initially looked at it, I immediately grouped a couple of things, banded a couple of things together because I felt like they represented the same thing innovatively. And then I looked at it again and I was like, okay, I assumed what I thought was important. When I think about my situation, i.e., where I work now, I've had a shift. So, as an example, like, I would have thought that, competency would be one thing, but then I've also grouped competency with respect and trust, because those are the 2 elements that I would need to be extremely competent in what it is that I'm doing. But then I also want to be able to challenge and be challenged. So again, that sort of rides into the whole competency element. So it was difficult for me to not group my feelings with the word into a banner of one, if that makes sense, as opposed to looking at them individually for what they are.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's okay. You can group them together, you can add new ones in, you can change the labels. It's yours and what it means to you ultimately. The invitation is very much to think about, what are these things that drive me? And do I get to see them in what it is that I do? Because in truth, we can be working in roles or environments and within cultures where we aren't necessarily getting to see those things. It's not terribly sustainable for us. We have more of a chance of feeling burnt out or disappointed in ourselves if we do. We're more likely to have kind of conflict and tension. There can be a greater chance of mental health issues, or just a lack of fulfillment in what it is that we are doing and how we're spending our time. When we have them, when we can express them, we tend to find that we are more productive, we are more energized, and our well-being is greater. Yeah, so whatever it is for you, you'll feel it if it's there and if it's not.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to invite you to do just for a few minutes. Kevin's going to put you into some breakout rooms. I suspect, should we do like 7-8 minutes, Kevin, rather than 10? Thinking about the time. What I'm going to invite you to do is just with somebody else in those groups, 2 or 3 people, just think about that question. What does it mean? So now we've taken 10 minutes to pause and look at it. Now we've got some awareness of some of those things that matter to us. Now that we think about how much we're seeing those on a day-to-day basis, what does this mean for you? Okay, so we'll see you back shortly, having had the chance to explore this with somebody else. Welcome back. There we go.
Here we go.
Awesome. Hello.
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 How was that? What are some of the things
really nice.
you talked about? Tell us some more. Come on. It was really nice. How?
Well, we managed to discuss what it means to us exactly. So yeah, I'm a career changer and a career returner, and trying to break into tech. And I was saying to Marie that I'm trying to see myself and see who I am based on these skills, because if you don't put them on paper, you think that you don't have the skills. And this is what puts me off when I apply for roles, really, because I don't have everything that they ask for, or I think I don't have them, but yeah. So yeah, it's just a valuation of who I am and what I can offer, or yeah.
And do you know what, that is really valuable. When I'm working with people in a coaching capacity, if you're returning to work or you're transitioning into potentially a new career, who am I in this new context is a bit that we sometimes forget to think about. And when you then go into your interview situations or you're thinking about applying for a job, it's really then easy to be nervous or more uncertain. And actually kind of going, no, this is who I am and this is what matters. This is what I can do with that. Yeah, great. What else?
I was asked a very interesting question by Sidri. On my list, I had creativity, autonomy, which scored highly, but fun, one of my other values, didn't score that highly. But Sidri asked a very interesting question, and I think it probably links to what you were just saying, Linda, is that in my current context and using the values that scored highly, like autonomy, can I start to craft some of the fun that's missing from my current role? Can I adapt, and maybe like what you're saying, can you use your current who you are to almost craft the situation that you'd like to be in? Because sometimes it's not easy just to say, right, I'm going to quit my job, but actually, can you craft the environment that you want?
Yeah, love that. Yeah, because your current work may be 100% better from asking yourself that question: how can I incorporate more fun into what it is that I do? And that then becomes quite an important question to ask. Yes, lovely, good. Anybody else?
Really quick, I think doing this kind of exploration for yourself, it helps you understand yourself. I'm trying to understand, how can I communicate my value and who I am to potential employers and interviewers. So, really just getting a better understanding of that will help me understand how to, share that. So make sure there's an alignment. I just had a conversation with somebody about the public sector in the UK, and how that probably isn't a good fit for me. So understanding that will help me align better, I think.
Yeah, love that. And the question I would ask you to think about, Marie, you kind of, as I look at my list of what matters to me, how do I see it expressed in the world? What are the behaviors and the skills that I see that mean I know it's there? Probably the easier question is, what do I see expressed that helps me know it's not there? Yeah, because the more that you can be aware of that, the clearer you are in an interview when you're working out if you're the right fit for them as much as they're working out, are they the right fit for you? Yeah, it can make the decisions much easier. And Perry, you kind of talked about the word autonomy. If you really like to work with autonomy, but this is a role that's going to face a lot of scrutiny and not a lot of free choice, it probably doesn't matter what the role is. You're not going to feel like you fit in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Good. All right. Are you ready for another little exercise? Got one more we want to try and fit into the session. And so, Kevin, if I may ask for the final slide with the circles on it. Thank you. So this is another way for us to look at it when we're thinking about values. It comes from the work of a guy called Ben Shahar and positive psychology that some of you may be familiar with. What we did last time with the previous exercise was to kind of go, here are the values, pick some and think about how they work for you. This is another way of looking at it, which starts with these 3 questions and asks you to then summon up the ideas for yourself. Working on the basis that if you can find the combination of the things that give you meaning, the things that you enjoy, and the things that you are good at, that you are going to find the time that you spend fulfilling, valuable, pleasurable, and meaningful. Okay. So I'm going to ask you these 3 questions. If you've got a piece of paper and a pen, this is a good opportunity to be just sort of writing along your answers as you think about them. Right. What are my strengths? Is the first question. What am I really good at? And if that's a difficult question, good. Right. This is forcing you to think about those things that you bring, that are unique to you, that you are valued for, that you are rewarded for. What are the things that are your strengths? Second question. What are the things that give you pleasure? What do you enjoy? Maybe that's inside of work and maybe it's outside of work. What is it that you find pleasurable? If you love putting together some detailed reports, or you love presenting them, or you love getting the chance to work in an office with your teams, these things matter. Because behind what we enjoy are some of the values that drive it. What gives me pleasure? And then the final question here, what gives me meaning? What matters? What do I feel is important about what I do? I look on LinkedIn from time to time and see the people who started in my team on the graduate programme, who are now leading teams of their own and doing that work, supporting new people in their teams. And for me, being able to see them developing their jobs and to see them progress will always be the thing that has more meaning for me than anything else I ever did in that job. Yeah. For other people, it's going to be something else. What are my strengths? What gives me pleasure? What gives me meaning? What I'm going to ask us to do is to go back into breakout rooms. It can be the same breakout rooms, Kevin, or different. I'll let you decide.
I'd already changed them.
Perfect. And we're just going to give you another, let's go 7 or 8 minutes again, just with a few other people to talk about your answers to those. If you don't want to give the specifics, then that's fine. But I would invite you just to think about what you notice or what is coming into your awareness thinking about these 3 questions. So when you're ready, go explore that. Welcome back.
Oop.
Welcome back.
Hello.
How was that? How was that? You come back, it sounds like you've got smiles on your faces.
It's a fun exercise.
Say some more.
It's fun. It's fun to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was it was fun to do, and it's just there was a lot of overlap as well in terms of what I said my strengths were and things, and yeah, and then the conversation just kind of flowed as well.
Yeah.
And then actually everything boils down to really helping people or making an impact and solving problems. You know, I find that despite how we all see it or what we like, we actually this core part of it that actually just that's why we're doing it. You're kind of doing it for the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it do if I can ask you the question, but if you'd rather think about it rather than answer it? What does it do for you to be able to boil it all down to something simple?
You just makes you think of why.
Mm-hmm.
Your why, yeah. And I think that why has to be bigger than the job itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to meet your personal, your internal value. And I think that's why sometimes when it's maybe workplace challenge or workplace problem, sometimes it can blur the line and you can take it personal, like, oh, it's me, maybe I'm not, because there is that blurry line. But yeah, ultimately, just while you're doing what you're doing, yes, you're getting paid to do it, but you actually genuinely love helping people and solving problems. That's why you're here. I think it just simplifies it. And once you realize that you need to be okay to be able to do that or show up to do that, then everything else is just noise around that. Right?
Yeah, and you can push that noise a bit further away. Yeah. Lovely. What else?
How do we put on a CV our strengths and values, or how do we have to showcase them? I mean, through an interview with examples. I mean, will it be the same thing with the CV, or just put it under skills? Or
Sure. I mean, whether it's a human being that's looking at a CV or whether it's a system that's looking at a CV, the CV, and I'll ask Kevin if he has any views on it because he's closer to me, but the CV is a filtering tool for finding out if a person is going to match a role. And in any job description, when you look at the language, there will be the things that are the tasks that are expected to be done, but there will also be words that reflect the kind of person they're looking for that will be able to do that task. And so being able to find a way of communicating that through your CV, I think, is important. Kevin, would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the values piece is the challenge, is the interesting bit there, or the challenging bit, with whether people doing CV filtering are thinking on that level or not. I know a lot of employers like to hire based on, personality types and values. Well, they like to say they hire based on that, but I'm not sure how they actually go around assessing those things. But I think, in the personal bio, like that top intro section is where I'd probably try and convey that more meaningful stuff and then use the career section, like you say, to do more of the keywords, getting past the AI filters or the human filters, whatever they are. But always base it on the JD you're applying to, because that's an indication of the language that the client uses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the problem at the moment. Passing the ATS machines. And there are thousands of women out there struggling. And even though they do the right thing, you know, they don't even get to the interview process.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can be it is sort of is the nature of the market at the moment. It's quite challenging. Yeah, indeed.
Hi. Yeah, so just to dovetail off what has been discussed, I actually struggled listing down my strengths. Like I literally had to think about it, and I was like, that's interesting that I can put it on my CV, but I can't just list it out now as part of a conversation.
Yeah. Interesting. Yes. From my perspective, probably quite unsurprising, given that this is a group for women. And some of the things when we think about what women are taught is about how they should be. Often being able to own and communicate your strengths is something that you can sometimes face a penalty for.
Yeah.
And so we find it difficult to do, particularly if we've also learned to kind of play it small or to doubt ourselves, which often can happen too. So the fact that you found it difficult, there's a kind of that is interesting. And what might it mean if you could, or if you did, or what might you need to do in order to be able to do that more confidently?
Yeah, because I was in the room with Kabisa, and I was like, well, when I say I'm a project manager, the assumption is that you should already know my key strengths. Just based on the fact that this is what I do for a living. But then I now thought, well, actually, no, it's my responsibility to actually pinpoint it out if it's required. So that might be something I need to actually work on.
Love that. And I think I would sort of connect to some of what Sade said as we're bringing this to a close. One of the things that we also know about doing that kind of thing is that it can be difficult sometimes for us to do it just for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we often learn that what's most important is doing things for other people. And so what I would invite you to do is, in thinking about the benefit of women owning their strength more, think about what women can you be a role model for that this would benefit, that you are doing it for them, not just for yourself. Because that's often a frame that helps us be able to take actions which sometimes otherwise seem difficult. Does that land with you at all? Yeah. Okay, good. So we're coming to the end. I just want to kind of leave you with a few thoughts as we finish. Appreciate that we have kind of gone straight in there and started thinking about all sorts of deep things. And I want to just kind of bring it back up as you think ahead. Right? You're going to spend more time at work probably than anywhere else. This is about how kind of you're spending your heartbeats, if you like. And so to be able to be doing things that are connected to and expressing our values becomes more important when we think about leading meaningful and fulfilling work lives. All right. So the questions I kind of want to leave you with to ponder this afternoon is, how could you express more of what matters to you in what you currently do? So Perry, to your point about where can I find more fun? That might be a really great thing to be thinking about. If you're looking for another role, how can you start to scan for more of what matters to you in selecting that? And what else can you do with this? Because perhaps if it's not in work, it might be that you're thinking about where can you find some ways to express these values somewhere else. Yeah, in any other things that you do. All right. And maybe just a kind of what's one maybe what's one small thing that you could take forward after this that would help you? So I'll leave you with those. And thank you very much for your input and your contributions and for sharing so generously what it is you shared. I hope that you found it useful. I hope it gave you some good things to think about. I hope to see you again sometime. I hope Kevin invites me back.
Anytime you
Thank
want.
you so
Linda.
much.
Anytime.
And I hope you have a good
Your
rest of
timing
the
has been
day.
impeccable, Linda. Marie, I think, pops her hand up. Do we have time to?
Yeah, sure. Go on, Marie.
No,
We've got...
No, it was an accident. I was trying to do a reaction
Okay.
type of thing.
okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Perfect.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Go off and have a great values-filled day. Enjoy.
Thank you. You too.
Well, you did that. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.